All right. Well, welcome everybody. This is a Facebook Live presentation brought to you today by Alaska Legal Services, the Alaska Department of Education and Early Development, Food Bank of Alaska, and the Alaska Division of Public Assistance. I'm Sarah Carver. I'm an attorney with Alaska Legal Services. I'll give everybody a minute to introduce themselves in a second, but we also have with us today Shonda O'Brien, the Director of DPA, Tracy Dablemont, Public Assistance Program Officer, Joe Dawson from DEED, the Child Nutrition Program Manager, and Kara Durr from Food Bank of Alaska. Today, during this Facebook Live, we want to talk to you about food security during the pandemic and what you can do to help yourself or your family or your community become food secure. So we're going to talk about what is SNAP. SNAP is also known as food stamps, how to apply, where to ask questions, how to appeal, spend special pandemic benefits, including emergency allotments and PEBT, as well as other resources. And this is a Facebook Live, so if you have any questions, please type them in the comments and we will answer them live, and we will field those questions and interrupt our presentation as they come in, and we'll direct the questions to whoever is online that is most capable of answering them. So please type any questions you have in the chat box. I will say, though, we won't be answering case-specific questions. So if there's a question specific to your particular SNAP case, that's better dealt with offline. So you can certainly contact one of the agencies to help answer those. But if you have any program or generic questions, please enter those into the comments. Like I said, I'm Sarah Carver. I'm an attorney with Alaska Legal Services. Heather Parker is also an attorney with Alaska Legal Services, and she's going to be reading some of those questions and comments as they come in. For those of you who don't know what Alaska Legal Services is or who we are and what we do, we've been around for a long time. We were established in 1967 as a private nonprofit law firm. We offer free legal services to low income and disadvantaged people, and our goals are to protect safety, health, and promote family stability. We practice in a wide array of legal areas. You can kind of think of us as doing anything except criminal law. So some of those things are consumer law, family law, housing problems, public benefits, healthcare, Alaska Native law, and other areas that are specific to veterans or the elderly. The only things that you need to be eligible for our services, if you have a civil issue, if you don't have a conflict of interest with other cases that we've worked on or other people that we've assisted, and you have to be income and asset eligible. But if you ever think you have a civil legal issue, please call our intake line, and we're happy to determine whether you're eligible. Okay, I'll go ahead and let DPA explain who they are and what they do.
Hi, thank you. My name is Shonda O'Brien. I'm the director for the division. So this slide that you see gives a little bit of an overview of all the program areas that we have responsibility for. We typically have the Gen 50C form that you'll see later in this presentation is the application that we use for the majority of the programs that you see on this slide. So Medicaid, SNAP, Adult Public Assistance, Alaska Temporary Assistance Program, General Relief, and senior benefits are all applied for through that form. The other program areas that we administer, like heating assistance or WIC or our child care assistance program, there are some other food nutrition programs that we administer. There's separate applications for those programs. And all forms can be submitted a number of ways. They can be submitted either in paper form in a Dropbox that is located in one of our offices, through a fax. You can send them via email to an email address that we have posted. There's a number of ways right now that you could submit a form. We also just recently implemented our telephonic signature option through our virtual contact center, which will allow folks to apply over the phone for benefits. So those are just a few of the ways that you can apply for services. And then we have staff located throughout the state who work through eligibility determinations and redeterminations daily. And right now, the hours that we are available are Monday through Friday, 8 to 5.
Okay, and Joe, for Deed?
So I just wanted to say, there's a couple of comments that have already popped up in the chat, and I just wanted to address them. So one of them, there's a couple of questions about PEBT, also Medicaid, and I just wanted to say, maybe we can talk briefly about Medicaid, but most of this presentation is about applying for SNAP and food benefits. And we are going to be talking about PEBT here in a bit. So I just wanted to respond to those. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead, Joe.
No, thank you so much. I appreciate that. So again, my name is Joe Dawson. I'm the program manager for child nutrition at the Department of Education and Early Development. As you see by this slide, we have a large array of programs that we administer. I was going to primarily talk about the National School Lunch Program, the breakfast programs, the meals at schools. Those, in the last year and a half, there's been a lot of pivots in USDA, who oversees these programs, who we work with, has been able to provide a lot of flexibility through waivers for schools to operate how they need to operate during the pandemic. One of the amazing things is this year and last year, all school meals are served to children for free at no cost, and that's been really wonderful to have happen during this time. We are still asking families to submit applications for school meals if they attend a school where applications are received, and some do, about 200 do. And the reason for that is that those applications can be used for a number of other reasons in addition to eligibility for school meals, but it does provide evidence that that child is eligible. Many of you know we had the emergency broadband program that operated this summer that provided families with funding for their internet, for homeschool, for the students who were virtual learning as well. They're used for Title I funding and pandemic EBT, which I know was told that there were the questions on that. So those applications are still valuable, even though the students are eating for free at school. So I definitely wanted to support those efforts. Many of the districts have online applications that can be submitted to the district. So do look for that. Again, there's waivers there that allow schools the flexibility that they need to provide meals, whether it's going to be in the cafeteria, in the classroom, or if buildings close, then districts can apply for waivers to have grab and go meals, such as many did last year. So we work very closely with the districts and meet weekly with them to see how they are doing and what support they need from us at the state and from USDA. I also wanted to talk about the Emergency Food Assistance Program. These are USDA foods that we receive which go out to the food banks and food pantries. And that program has had a lot of additional foods brought into it as a result of the pandemic, and recently added to these food items that are available called the Build Back Better program, which was another $1.1 million just for Alaska in USDA foods. And part of that will be fresh produce boxes at the larger food banks for families, like 10-pound boxes. They're like 300 boxes once a month. So we're definitely seeing things happen, through the USDA programs that we haven't always had. So with that, I'll let the next presenter.
So there are like a ton of questions about free and reduced lunches and PEBT. And I think maybe can I just ask a couple of these?
Sure.
So, well, one of them says I got a letter from public assistance saying that I qualify for free and reduced lunch. I'm not sure if that's a question.
So if when you're eligible for SNAP, you will receive a letter. We also receive notification of that, and we notify the school districts, and that's called a direct certification. So a family who receives a letter like that wouldn't need to apply for benefits because we automatically certify those children as eligible for school meals. And if we rolled this over into maybe the next topic, which is PEBT, that would also, again, make that child eligible for PEBT if they're enrolled at a school that's providing school meals. And that's an important distinction because not every school participates in the National School Lunch Program. So they could get that letter, but if they're in a community that doesn't provide the meals, then that's invalid. It's
Okay.
a generated letter. So,
And then there's a question. I thought we would get it without filing an application for kids who are in school for PEBT. So I guess there's a question as to whether or not people need to file an application to get certain
if they're at a
benefits.
school that accepts free and reduced price applications, they should file an application.
And then there's another question. Does homeschool qualify as well?
No. I can expand on that if you like. This is a USDA funded program that provides meals when they provide the funding for meals at school, and PEBT is replacement funding for those meals that would have been missed because the building was closed. Homeschoolers are outside of that formula.
Okay. I think that's most of the questions now. I think there will probably be more questions for PEBT later. So continue on. Thanks.
Yeah, and that's really helpful, and that's a good overview for diving deeper a little bit later. All right, and the Food Bank of Alaska, Kara.
Hey, hi everybody. My name is Kara Durr, and I am the Director of Public Engagement with the Food Bank of Alaska. So Food Bank of Alaska is the statewide food bank, and we work with 3 sister food banks in Fairbanks, Kenai, and Juneau, as well as about 150 partners around the state. Our main function is to kind of source and distribute out food to people in need through our network of partner agencies. But we also administer many of the federal programs, some of which have been mentioned today, like the Emergency Food Assistance Program, the Senior Boxes, the Commodity Supplemental Food Program, and then we do summer and after school meals for kids, as well as we don't administer, but we do ship the federal FDPIR Federal Distribution Program on Indian Reservations food. And then kind of related to a lot of this topic, we also do outreach and application assistance for some of the federal programs. So we work really closely with the Division of Public Assistance and with the child nutrition programs to just help get information out about SNAP and PEBT and other programs. So we, are often in non-pandemic times, we're doing a lot of outreach events in the community and helping give people information and helping them to fill out the applications if it appears they're eligible. And right now, a lot of it's over the phone and by email, just the situation being what it is. But we just kind of try to help assist and get information on those programs out.
Thank you. And thanks again for everybody for joining us. I think this is going to be really useful in getting more information on food security out to those who are interested in the topic. Food security might not be something that everyone thinks about every day, but I promise you, if you are food insecure, you are thinking about it every day. Hunger in Alaska is prevalent. Roughly 1 in 8 Alaskans struggle with hunger. 16% of Alaskans live in homes that might not have enough food, and 1 in 10 Alaska seniors face the threat of hunger. There was a survey of areas of Alaska that have the highest reported food insecurity, and you can see those different percentages on the screen here, including Bethel, Nome, the Northwest Arctic, Yukon, and other areas. So what we're going to focus on really today are the two programs we've already discussed a little bit, SNAP and included PEBT. SNAP might not be as familiar of a term for everybody, but food stamps certainly is. So SNAP is the food stamp program. It's the country's most important anti-hunger program, and it offers nutritional support to millions of eligible low-income individuals and families monthly. It's a national program, but of course we administer it here in Alaska, and approximately 85,000 Alaska residents use SNAP. 67% of those who use SNAP are in families with children. And then more than 30% are in families with members who are either elderly or disabled. And SNAP isn't a program that's just for people. It includes people you might not necessarily think it includes. And you might be eligible when you might presume you're not eligible. For example, 42% of families, 42% of SNAP recipients are in working families. So just because you're working, you might think that you're automatically ineligible for SNAP, but that's not necessarily true. And SNAP has kept 23,000 people out of poverty in Alaska. I think that was a 2019 figure, and that included 11,000 children. So it's a really important program, not just for families, but also for communities. So one of the first topics we wanted to talk about, and Shonda, maybe you can expand on this a little bit, or Carrie, you can explain your role in applications as well. But one of the most common questions we see is, how do you apply for SNAP?
Yeah, I can take this, and obviously Kara can offer some information as well. Like she said, we do partner with them, and they've really been instrumental throughout the pandemic in assisting folks get their applications submitted. Our virtual contact center was implemented in the spring. It essentially gives us the ability to now receive applications over the phone and to accept telephonic signatures. That feature was just implemented last month. The contact center also allows us to do telephonic interviews rather than requiring folks to come in person to interview for their benefits. And that's been really instrumental also through the pandemic in aiding people in doing things in a more virtual way or not in person. Other ways that folks can apply, though, like I mentioned, through paper or faxing documents, you can drop them off at our drop boxes, or if there isn't an office in the location that you reside, you can mail them into the office. There are also fee agents located throughout the state that we employ. And so those fee agents are also there to assist individuals in submitting their applications or the information that they need to apply for any of the programs that I mentioned earlier.
And I'll just add, yeah, it's very similar for us at the food bank. We're really excited about some of the flexibilities that the Division of Public Assistance has now, like, for example, being able to do the telephonic signature over the phone. We also have that capability. And, you know, we take phone calls, we take emails, we get referrals from the internet. So we text people. Oh, and another thing we can also do is look up case statuses and provide case status updates to people. So I think really here the key is, like, there are numerous ways that people can apply and numerous options to reach somebody for help, and we are just another option.
So, excuse me, there's a couple of questions in the chat. Actually, there's a ton of questions in the chat, but I'm just going to do a couple while we have this slide up. And I think this question might be for you, Shonda. There's a bunch of questions about other programs available for kind of low-income Alaskans. And if people have questions with receiving a Medicaid card or other programs, would you recommend that they either call the call center or email this number? Do you have anything else to add about that?
No, those are perfect ways to get those questions answered. Call wait times typically for questions like that are between 3 and 5 minutes on most days. Some days of the month, they may be a little bit longer. But if you just need a new card issued, if you need to report a change to your case, if you just want to know the status, all of those things can be done through the call center or through the email address that's on this slide.
And then are there other programs? So there's a question, what help is there for seniors? And what help is there for disabled residents? And can people talk about senior programs? So I know this is like focused on SNAP, but could you just briefly mention some of those
sure.
other programs?
Sure. So specifically for seniors, the programs that are more geared toward our senior population would be the Senior Benefits Program, which is an Alaska specific program. It's not one that's federally administered. It's just a state of Alaska program that replaced longevity bonus program years and years ago. The Heating Assistance Program, also known as LIHEAP, is another program that is available to seniors. It's not specifically just for seniors, but it is tailored to prioritize our senior population in serving individuals that have heating assistance needs. The Adult Public Assistance Program is also tailored more towards seniors and the disabled population in our state. It supplements Social Security. It also offers Medicaid services, which is also a program that seniors could apply for and be eligible for. And then Kara mentioned briefly the Commodity Supplemental Food Program, which is a food program specifically for seniors in our state. And it provides for meals or boxes of food to be shipped and delivered to individuals who qualify for the program. One last program I almost forgot was the Senior Farmers Market Program, which is another nutrition program that's administered through our food nutrition programs in the division. And so it's more of like a coupon program for seniors participating vendors that are doing farmers markets in our state.
And then there's another question. What are the income guidelines for SNAP?
Hold on just a second while I pull that information up because I do not know it off the top of my head. We also have it listed on our webpage. So if folks want to look that information up, they could. I could put it in. I'm not sure if I could put it in the chat or if you would have to.
If you put it in the chat, Shonda, I can add it to Facebook.
Okay, I will do that now just because it's a lot of information to read through depending on where you're located and what the size of your household is. It also takes into consideration shelter expenses and other deductions like that. So it really is dependent on a number of different factors before we can really say specifically. But for example, a household size of 3, your gross income limit can be $2,974. Your net limit can be $2,288. And then your standard deduction amount could be $303 as of October 1st, 2021. So those are changing starting with the new federal fiscal year coming up. And then I can find the same information for what's in effect today.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think that just goes to show that these calculations can be tricky, and there's a lot of like potential deductions or things like income that counts or doesn't count. So if you think you're even close to qualifying, I really just recommend reaching out to either food bank or DPA and doing that application, because you might be surprised, and we certainly would want to be over-inclusive rather than under-inclusive.
And Sarah, can I add something real quick?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
I was just going to say, on the questions around resources for seniors, I know often there's a group of seniors that are getting the minimum benefit for SNAP, and that's created some hesitancy sometimes to apply. To say, I don't want to do all the paperwork. I don't want to go through the hassle. I'm only going to get $19 a month. I think many seniors get more than that. So again, just encouraging people to apply. And right now with the emergency allotments, which I know we're going to talk about more, later, everyone's getting the maximum benefit. So, I think for seniors in particular, that can be a really big jump in benefits. And so again, just encourage people to, apply or at least call, with questions if they're not currently getting SNAP.
There is a question. Is it possible to apply by phone, and has an online application been considered? And then just kind of a general comment, food insecurity will continue. Public assistance may want to consider a field office on Prince of Wales Island. And then there's also a question, are there no longer food distributions to communities?
I can take the first couple. So applications can now be accepted telephonically through the virtual contact center. We are able to now take signatures telephonically, which I think was really the big prohibitor for us before. And then to answer the question about the online application, we are moving ahead with a procurement for developing an online application, and we've been meeting and working with USDA the past couple of months to ensure that we are meeting all of the compliance requirements necessary to get the online application in production. So we are hopeful to have that in place this year. There are some things outside of our control that have caused some delays. The department's cyber attack has taken a lot of the IT resources off of other projects and refocused them to addressing that crisis. And so that has caused a little bit of a delay in the timeline that we had hoped to have in place, but we are still moving ahead and hope to have the request for service is the first form we're hoping to have in place, because we find that that tends to address a lot of the more immediate urgent needs, with the online application coming right behind that, so that we have both tools available to apply.
And then Heather, do you want me to take a stab at the food resources question?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so we're definitely still distributing food resources. I mean, more than ever before during the pandemic. And, again, we work with about 150 partners around the state, and there are additional partners, of course, that are doing some of this work too, that just maybe aren't agencies of ours. But I think probably, during the pandemic, there have been some programs that have come and gone based on federal funding. The Farmers to Families food boxes is an example of that, where I know a lot of communities saw these food boxes come through, and they're kind of deciding what that program is going to look like going forward, but those food boxes did stop. So that might be an example of a program that was there that is no longer operating. But, if for whoever asked the question, or for others, if you're interested in seeing what's available in your community, 211, of course, is a great resource. We also have a map of partners on our website, foodbankofalaska.org, that people can go and check out. And then we always encourage people, if there are no partners in your community, or there are no food distribution sites, and you think that's something that's needed, reach out to us, because we're always looking for more partners and more ways to get food out, especially in rural communities.
That's really helpful. Thank you. You can see on this slide the list of public assistance offices in the state. Although, Shonda, can you address what is the state of these offices in regards to the pandemic? Are people able to actually visit these offices, or is this where the drop locations are, and what services can actually happen in office at this time?
Yeah, so all of these offices have drop boxes. There are staff in our offices working. They check the drop boxes throughout the day, depending on the volume of material being received. And so if you're in a location where you can access the office, you're welcome to drop information off or pick applications or forms up. Our webpage does have our forms or our application on them, so you can also download them there, or you can contact the virtual contact center and have an application mailed to you if you're in an area where you're unable to get to an office, or you're your preference is not to go to the office, we're definitely experiencing a lot of requests for applications to be mailed to individuals because of the concern about health and safety. And so as far as what you can do in office right now, the best way to get service is to contact the contact center. The staff that we have working in the office are there strictly because we have a need for them to open mail and scan information into our document management system and get the work distributed to our staff so that eligibility determinations can be made timely. And so for their health and safety purposes, we are not open to the public. So we are not doing in-person contact with individuals at this time.
Well, that's a good segue to our next question, timeliness. So we know generally that applications are processed within or should be processed within 30 days unless they're expedited applications, in which case the timeline is 7 days. And people may need supporting documents to finish up their application. But I think the big question is, can someone call the virtual, and I'm sorry if we're calling it, is the virtual contact center, not the virtual call center. Can someone call that and get an application completed from start to finish in that one call and then be receiving benefits?
Yes. So as long as everything that would be needed to determine the eligibility is accomplished through that call, they could do that. Previous to having the telephonic signature option in place, which really was just a programming, we had to work through our security office, and there's a whole bunch of different hoops we had to jump through to get that in place. But now that we have the ability to do that, it really makes it easier for folks to apply online if that, or apply through the contact center if that is the option that they choose. And so as in terms of timeliness, typically the things that we see that prevent an application from being processed all the way through is the missing signature. There's a lot of applications that come through without that signature, and we aren't able to process them to final without that information. So that tends to be the most common reason why an application might be pended for further action.
And is there specific documentation or information that a person that's interested in applying should have ready when they call you to help like cut down on follow-up calls that are needed, or I guess what do they need in hand to apply?
Yeah, so the information really it has to do with your household composition, your income, your resource information, things of that nature. And so as long as you have all of that readily available, that should help to make the process more efficient. I don't know if Kara since Kara is kind of on the front lines dealing with this a lot, she may have more to offer in terms of suggestions or what she's seeing at the food bank, but those tend to be the things I hear about the most. And so I don't know, Kara, if you want to weigh in at all.
Yeah, well, I think maybe where we've seen people struggle is understanding like what is required also versus what is advantageous for them to have. More documentation is always good because it's ultimately going to help you as a client get more benefits that you're entitled to. But right now it's not as much of an issue with the emergency allotments. And I think sometimes people see, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think people maybe see a list of documents that they're being requested to provide and think, oh, well, I don't know where all that stuff is, and just give up. So I guess my advice, we see that sometimes, and is, call the call center if you're feeling confused or frustrated, or call us and we can help walk you through that and help you get the documents in that are needed.
Great, thanks.
So
go ahead.
Sarah, there are a ton of questions about PEBT, and so I wonder if we should skip these next 2 slides and just go straight to PEBT. Well, actually, those are good, but then let's go to PEBT.
Sure. Let's okay, so just briefly, if you have a question about your benefits or anything like that, we've said it multiple times, but the virtual contact center as well as food bank can often answer those. So their contact information is here, and it's going to be at the end of the presentation as well. If you disagree with a decision that DPA has made in regards to your benefits, there is a right to appeal, and that appeal form can be found online. You appeal by submitting this pretty simple, straightforward fair hearing request and saying that you essentially disagree with their decision. So I think this is, yeah, I think you're right, Heather. I think this is the meat of the presentation and what we need to focus on. I think maybe let's start with emergency allotments and then end with PEBT. So during the pandemic, there is a special program called the Emergency Allotment Program. It started last summer, so summer of 2020, and this program bumped everybody that is currently receiving SNAP up to the maximum benefit amount for their household size. So if you are getting something less than that, that means that you are probably not getting this pandemic emergency allotment benefit. So Shonda, I wonder if you can speak to maybe just a little bit about what the benefit is for, how folks know if they're getting it or if they're not getting it, and maybe what they should do if they think they're not getting the correct amount.
Sure. So the emergency allotment started with the onset of the pandemic in April of 2020. At that time, guidance from Food Nutrition Services to states indicated that there was a calculation of how to determine the amount of emergency allotment a household would be eligible for based on what the standard deductions are for the household. So essentially, if you were entitled to the maximum benefit at that time, and we had reduced the benefit due to other deductions or other resource calculations, at the time that this went into effect, we would have given you the difference between what those deductions had been to your benefit amount and what they and the full amount that your household was eligible for. In February of 2021, new guidance came out from USDA indicating that they had interpreted the language incorrectly and that guidance had been given to states erroneously calculating the emergency allotment amounts. And so at that time, states were given guidance to implement a new payment calculation for emergency allotments, which would give households who were not receiving emergency allotments because they already were getting the maximum benefit amount that they were eligible for, an additional $95 or some form of calculation between the difference. So if your household was, let's say, eligible for $500 in food stamps per month, and you were receiving $495 a month because of deductions or other things that were being calculated, the new guidance would then give us the ability to issue you a food stamp benefit of $590. And so it was the difference between the 95 and what you were receiving. And so the calculation is really dependent on the unique circumstances of the household and what benefit you're receiving. If you were eligible for $500 and receiving $400 a month, then we would bump your emergency allotment amounts you would get the full $500 a month for your benefit instead. And so those calculations are being performed by staff on a monthly basis. Our system doesn't have the capability or the sophistication to make those determinations for us. And so because this program is a month-to-month program, it's approved on a month-to-month basis. So the state requests approval each month that we're in a public health emergency to continue issuing those benefits. And as a result of that, the emergency allotment calculations are performed by staff every month. And so as we're working through all of the different cases and depending on where we're at with the approval process for the emergency allotment, it is possible that households are receiving more than 1 month at a time in benefits as we catch up to that. And I don't remember what other questions were on that slide.
So there is a question in the chat, which I think is totally related to this. Are SNAP recipients still getting the maximum allotment regardless of income? Do you mind just kind of
Yes.
clarifying that?
Yes. So every household would be entitled to an emergency allotment benefit, which is to give you the maximum benefit, or if you were already receiving the maximum benefit, it would give you more than what the maximum benefit amount would entitle you to. So every household should be receiving.
And that's true through September at this point, or is it true going forward?
It is true as of September. We aren't able to ask for October's emergency allotment approval until we're in October. So starting next week, we'll put that request forward to Food Nutrition Services. And once we receive approval back from them, we will be able to start issuing October.
So I think this area is like pretty complicated. So I just want to kind of recap. Like since April 2020, households who were already on SNAP should have received the maximum benefit that whole time. Is that right?
Correct. So if you were already receiving the maximum benefit, you wouldn't have seen a difference in your benefit amounts. But if you were not, then the adjustment to increase the benefit to the maximum allotment would have been being processed each month.
And then starting, was it May of this year? It's starting in
February of 2021 is when new guidance came out from Food Nutrition
Okay.
Services.
So starting February 2021, even if you were getting the maximum allotment, you would get an extra $95. And that's true through September of this year, right?
Correct.
Okay. And if folks have questions about that, they should call the call center.
Yes.
Okay.
Just because, I mean, people might not naturally know what the maximum amount is for their household size. We did include this table, and it is a little bit confusing to read, but if you look at the urban, rural 1 and rural 2, and so those are going to be the community you live in. And if you see the maximum table here according to the household size. So for example, if you have a household size of 5, if you live in, say, Anchorage, that means you should be getting $11.44 a month. That's currently the maximum benefit. And if you live in a more rural area, that benefit goes up from there. And I know it's also confusing because like Shonda said, maybe people are getting lump sums that are being back paid for months that are missed, or the payments are broken into 2 payments a month. So it is confusing to know whether you're getting the benefit and whether you're getting the correct benefit. And also these numbers have changed throughout the year based on different guidance. So if you have any questions, we really encourage you to reach out to the virtual contact center to have an eligibility tech look at your actual file and make sure that month by month, line by line, you are getting the correct amount. And amounts are going to change again in October. So just adding a little more confusion. It's just something that happens annually. Every October, that's the beginning of the new fiscal year. And so amounts change again. And so we won't go into detail here because I'm not sure that we actually know those new numbers yet, but
that was the document I put in the chat just because it's going to be coming on Friday.
Okay.
Our system has already been updated to incorporate those changes in the cost of living adjustments. So yeah,
that's
that
great.
information is out there. And it also, the attachment that I sent includes some information about what the deductions are and by geography and other things like that. It is complicated to look at. Unfortunately, that's sort of how, if you go out to the USDA website, that's also how they've got it formatted there. So we try and remain as consistent as possible with the guidance that they have, but it can be, like you said, complicated to understand.
Sure. So I guess that flags for anybody watching. If you're on SNAP, your benefits are going to look a little bit different going forward. But again, if you have any questions, reach out to Food Bank or GPA to see if we can help decipher those for you. Okay, seems like what everybody's been waiting for, PEBT. Joe, can you explain what the PEBT program is generally and who's eligible and what folks need to do to become eligible? It's, again, a little bit complicated.
It is a little bit complicated, and the PEBT is definitely a collaborative project initiative. So I can definitely provide an overview, but there's some questions I can't answer because we're just one part of the collaboration. So what it is, Pandemic EBT, It provides food benefits for eligible students to replace the cost of meals that the students would have received if it weren't for a lack of in-person instruction due to closures. And so I'm really going to be talking specifically about school year 2021, the school year that ended in summer. We only recently has USDA announced information on, further PEBT, and Alaska has not applied or been authorized for it. We weren't authorized for last school year until June, which definitely sets the project back a little bit. So we're still in that process. So children are automatically eligible to receive benefits if they're eligible to receive school meals. And so that's when I was mentioning that if there's an application for school meals at the school, that families should fill it out, even though meals are for free. And because we don't know what will happen this year, we're continuing to encourage those applications to be submitted. So students would have to attend a school that provides school meals. They have to be eligible for school meals. There was the inquiry about the family who received the SNAP letter saying that they were eligible for school meals. We take that into consideration as well. Or what's called a community eligibility provision school, which is a status that schools receive through us that waives applications on a traditional year, which we haven't had in a few years. But all of those students would be eligible for pandemic EBT as well. So where it gets complicated is that this is not data we normally have at the Department of Education, name by name by name. So we work with the school districts to get those lists of students who were enrolled last year, who at each school, so that we can determine which schools participated in school nutrition programs, which months the children were enrolled, and if the school had closures. So there's really a lot of data to process through to determine those benefits. So once we're able to do that, we transfer that, the student data securely to DPA so that they're able to issue those pandemic EBT cards. They will be a new card. I see you've got the Alaska Quest card on a little picture there. That is not the card that PEBT will be issued. There's a fairly standard national card. It's a white. It says PEBT on it and might have a logo. I'm not sure. I haven't seen our version yet if it's been changed, but it will not be on a Quest card and will not be added to a card for a family who is on SNP benefits. It will not be loaded onto that card. Our friends at the Food Bank of Alaska have a really amazing PEBT site, and they've taken our data and built a little calculator so that families can look and see what school their child attended last year to get an estimate of the benefits. One caveat, their calculator has the full year, but benefits are actually go out in 2 different semesters. We were only authorized to do a semester at a time. And that is the maximum benefit. And that's really important to note, because what we've learned looking at the data is that a lot of kids might have been unenrolled for a month or 2. They might have transitioned to homeschool for a few months. There's a lot of different variations, student by student by student, on these benefits, kind of based on their enrollment, what school they attended. They might have transferred from one school to another. And the closures are different all over the state from last year. We had some districts who had, maybe a 3-day weekend every now and then, and others, who had virtual instruction for 5 months. So that also affects those benefits, and that's been part of what we've transferred to DPA. Once the benefits are issued for the school year, then all of the eligible students would also receive an allocation for summer PEBT, which was a flat amount through USDA for $604. So we are looking at up to 3 allocations onto those PEBT cards once those are issued. Do you have any Question?
There,
You have
there,
questions?
yeah, there are a ton of questions. I wanted to let you finish. So one of them is like, when are the PEBT cards being sent out?
That is a DPA question.
So PEBT cards are being sent out. They have been being sent out for the past several months. So they're the PEBT printer, the card printer that we use, is only able to do so many a day. And so that's part of the challenge that we've been experiencing in the division, is that our capabilities in getting the cards printed are pretty limited. And so I think we're averaging between 500 and 800 a day on the printer. But they are going out, and staff are loading the information into the system and getting the cards issued every single day. We have a dedicated team that are just working on PEBT.
Is that for what section of the school year is that for? Or is it for all of last year?
It is for all of last year. I believe we have been working to get the summer benefits issued through the banking contractor that oversees or manages the EBT cards. And so that way we won't be limited in the division by what our capabilities are. And so that will be in place for the summer benefits. And we've been working to get that in place now for quite some time. Again, some challenges in IT resources due to the cyber attack, but I believe that they are still tracking to get that in place here soon.
And the cards that you're talking about, is that for the second payment, or is that for the first payment? There's a lot of questions in the chat about like first, second, or third payments.
Sure, I might ask Tracy Dablemont to answer with what she understands on the payment categories, because we were issuing payments, I think, in stages. So I'm not sure where we're at on that. And I don't know, Tracy, if you have the answer to that.
Yes, currently the issuances are for the first 19-20 school year. And once we work through the other issues, we'll begin being able to issue the semester for the first semester for the 2021 school year. Once that first semester is completed, then we'll be able to go ahead and move on to the second semester and then to summer.
And then there's a question, do you need to keep the same card? So if it's issued once, do you keep it, or do you get a new card for each subsequent payment?
So for the 19-20 school year, those were issued the Alaska Quest cards, like the picture that you see on the screen. For the beginning of the 2021 school year, you'll receive a white card that says PEBT, and those will be issued to the children. And so you will definitely want to hold on to those, because all of the future PEBT, the semester 1, semester 2, and summer will all be issued to that new card.
And what if you didn't get a card for PEBT? It sounds like maybe they're still being processed. Is that right?
That's correct.
And I wanted to clarify really quick. So the cards that are being processed now are for the 19-20 school year, fall of 2020, so a year ago. That has not been issued yet, right? Am I right about that?
That's correct.
Okay.
Okay, there are a ton of questions, so I'm just going to try and keep up with everything. One question is, are the cards issued for each child, or is it just one card per family?
Each child that is eligible will receive their own card with their name on it.
With the child's name, is that right?
That's correct. Mm-hmm.
And if people haven't received a card yet, is there a number that they should call?
Not at this time, because those issuances have not started yet. If they didn't receive something from last fall and are curious about that, then they should call for that information. But if you're looking for the 2021 school year, no, at this point, you wouldn't need to call for those.
Okay, and there have just been a bunch of questions about this. So the 1920 school year is being processed. And then there's a question as when will the 2021 school year cards be issued?
We're still working on the process with our contractor, our EBT contractor. So Shonda, I don't know if we have any timelines.
Yeah, so we're, like I had just mentioned, that process will enable us to get cards issued more quickly. We've been working through some security and programming delays associated with getting the information to the banking contractor that we need to get to them. So our target for getting that in place was this month, and we are still hoping to have all that work completed within the next month, so that we can start getting those issuances done more quickly.
And then it looks like maybe there's some confusion. If you already get SNAP, there's a question as to whether or not certain benefits will be put on your SNAP card or if you'll get a separate card. I'm sorry if it's already been answered, but it keeps popping up in the chat.
The PEBT benefits will not go on to the family's card if you already have a Quest card. The PEBT benefit card will be issued to each individual child. So you will get a different card, and it looks different. It says it's white and it says PEBT in black letters, and that's how you can tell the difference between the new benefit and what had been issued before.
Okay, and then some people said the card they got was in their names, not their children's names. And then I guess there's also just a general comment that this is a benefit that's really needed. Okay, there's a bunch more questions. Do Alaska or Anchorage School District virtual students qualify for PEBT?
This is Joe. So not unless the school building has a closure, then virtual students are eligible for PEBT. And I actually, I can't speak for the current year because we don't have an approved plan for the current year. So if we talk about last year, the school district submitted all of their learning models by school. So many of them, were closed through January or so, and then they went into a partial virtual, partial in person. And so the benefits are really structured around what the school district submitted to us and how they were operating. So it's a school by school determination, not a student by student determination. If the student was enrolled at a school that had 5 months of closure, then that's what the benefits would be based on, is what the school building, how they operated last school year.
And then there's a question that's popped up a couple of times. Can you still get PEBT for last school year if we switched to homeschooling this school year?
Yes, as long as they were otherwise eligible, yes. Their status this year will have no bearing on last year, including summer benefits.
And then there's a question. I work for a Title I school where the student gets free lunch. Do we have to fill out an application for PEBT?
Most Title I schools, and without knowing the name, I can't answer this, but almost all of our Title I schools are also community eligibility provision schools, meaning that they don't normally traditionally accept free and reduced priced application for school meals. So if that is the scenario, then that would be true that they wouldn't need to. But again, without knowing the school name, I can't answer that question.
And then it looks like there have been a couple of questions about an opt-in form for PEBT. And then also a question, do I need to fill out another application to get PEBT again? So I think they're talking about for the second round of that's coming.
Okay. There's a bunch there. Okay, so the opt-in, we did the very first round, which was for the closures at the end of school year 20, when all schools were closed from mid-March through May. And the first rollout required families to opt in, and that's why the benefits came under the parent's name. There were a lot of difficulties in that process, which is why we changed. And so I know, there's a couple comments on, inconsistencies, why they're going out in children's names now instead of family names. But that was why the opt-in forms were really, they weren't the optimal way to issue the benefits. So you do not need to opt in, but you are allowed to opt out, because we also hear from families who have received cards who did not want them. You're definitely allowed to opt out. You contact the virtual call center, and they can make sure that opt-out is noted. As far as having subsequent application, like I said, there is no application for the PBT. There's no opt-in for PBT, but you do need to make sure that your child is eligible for free and reduced price meals at the school. So that's either by application, direct certification because they participate in SNAP or Migrant Ed, or that school is a community eligibility provision. Was there another question?
I think that's most of my list, but it looks like there were a lot of questions. And I just want to recognize that we're over time from what we talked about. So I guess I'm going to turn it to Sarah to just kind of wrap everything up.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you have, I just want to flag for folks watching that ALSC has COVID-19 specific resources that include a lot of the benefits and special pandemic related programs on our AlaskaLawHelp.org page. And that includes kind of a tool that we developed, a very basic tool to help determine, again, what your emergency allotment maximum benefit should be currently. And then you just know that if you're not getting that, or if you're getting less than that amount, you're probably not getting the correct amount, or you might just have a question that you want to flag for DPA, in which case you call the virtual contact center. But I want to just highlight again, there's lots of other resources on our AlaskaLawHelp.org page, both COVID-19 related and just civil legal needs related. So please feel free to check that out. And I promised that I would end on this, this note that has the contact information that we've flagged so many times for you guys. The Food Bank of Alaska is such a great resource, and we're so lucky to have them. They can answer a lot of your questions and help refer you to other places that might be able to assist you with hunger-related needs. So their contact information is listed as well, again, as the virtual contact center's information. And I know we did go a little over time, but I so much appreciate all these leaders. We have leaders in these different areas with us today, so we're very lucky, Joe and Tracy and Kara and Shonda. Thank you so much for joining us. And this presentation will, I'm told, live forevermore in Facebook. So if you want to review it, or if you have questions or want to circle back, you can go to Alaska Legal Services Facebook page and watch this video again. And I want to welcome Food Bank, or I don't know if DPA has a Facebook page, but I want to welcome you guys to share it if you want to. So, and thank you so much for participating to the listeners today. A lot of really good questions. And if you have more questions, please contact these agencies. So thank you so much. Bye-bye.